exposure always comes before elevation. And sometimes we struggle with that because exposure feels uncomfortable. It feels like loss. It feels like betrayal. It feels like God left the door unlocked and the enemy walked in and touched what you thought was safe. But exposure is not abandonment. It's announcement. When God allows something to be uncovered, He's letting you know that what you couldn't see for yourself is no longer allowed to stay hidden. That relationship you kept fighting to hold together, even when your spirit whispered it wasn't aligned. That job that looked like stability but was actually slowly draining your faith. That secret habit you convinced yourself wasn't a big deal. When exposure comes, it is God's way of preparing you for the next level. Because He loves you too much to let what is broken travel with you into what is blessed. Elevation cannot coexist with contamination. If God left the hidden things untouched, they would follow you into your next season and sabotage it from within. So when exposure shows up, it doesn't mean you lost. It means you've been chosen. Chosen to see the truth. Chosen to stand in clarity. Chosen to confront what others are still pretending not to notice. Exposure clears the air so you can breathe again. It breaks the illusion so you can stop fighting for things that were never fighting for you. It shines a light on deception so you can stop calling it love. The challenge is that exposure rarely feels like blessing in the moment. It stings. It burns. It shakes you. Sometimes it leaves you with tears on your pillow and questions in your heart. Why now? Why me? Why like this? But what you have to understand is that God reveals what He intends to heal, and He heals what He intends to elevate. He doesn't expose to shame you. He exposes to free you. He doesn't strip to punish you. He strips to prepare you. The same God who tore the veil in the temple is the God who tears the veil in your life. Because you cannot serve Him fully while still chained to lies. Every exposure is an invitation to trust Him more deeply. You can either focus on what fell apart, or you can focus on the God who kept you together when it fell apart. You can either dwell on what you lost, or you can open your hands for what's coming. You can either curse the reveal, or you can thank God that He didn't let you keep walking blind. Because exposure doesn't just show you what's wrong. It shows you that God still cares enough about your destiny to intervene. Think about how many times you prayed, Lord, show me what's real. And then when He does, it hurts so bad you almost wish you didn't know. But the truth is always better than the comfort of a lie. Lies feel safe until they collapse. Lies look stable until they cave in. And when they do, they don't just break the lie, they break you with it. That's why God exposes early. He reveals before the collapse. He allows you to see before it destroys you. He interrupts your illusion so you can survive the reality. Elevation requires purification. The oil doesn't flow until the pressing happens. The diamond doesn't shine until the cutting takes place. And the next level of your life cannot open until you've been released from what can't go with you. So don't despise the season of exposure. Don't curse the truth that finally came to light. Don't think for a moment that what left you means you're less. If anything, what left you proved you're ready for more. The higher you go, the more weight you have to drop. The deeper you grow, the more lies you have to release. Exposure is heaven's way of saying you're about to rise. So yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair. Yes, it makes you question everything. But if you hold on, if you trust through the tears, if you worship through the questions, you'll look back and realize that exposure was the best thing God could have ever done for you. It was the evidence that elevation was already on the way. The masks are falling off. And as much as we want to believe people are exactly who they present themselves to be, the truth eventually has a way of showing up. You can wear a mask for a while, but you can't wear it forever. Pretending takes energy. Deception takes effort. And at some point, the cracks start showing. What once looked polished now looks suspicious. What once looked safe now feels unsettling. When the masks start slipping, don't waste time trying to hold them up for someone else. Let them fall, because God is showing you the reality you need to see so you don't keep investing in what was never real in the first place. It's easy to be fooled by appearances, smooth words, smiling faces, promises wrapped in charm. But when the mask comes off, you realize the kindness was manipulation. The smile was a cover. The promise was empty. And while it hurts to realize that what you trusted wasn't authentic, there's also freedom in knowing you don't have to build your life on illusions anymore. When masks fall, truth stands. And the truth may sting, but it will also set you free. Sometimes it's not even people. It's systems, it's patterns, it's spirits that have been hiding in culture, hiding in traditions, hiding in habits. For a long time, they looked normal. They looked acceptable. They even looked necessary. But now their real face is showing, and you can no longer call it harmless. What you once ignored because it was easier to pretend, you can't ignore anymore. The mask is gone, and the truth demands a response. And here's the thing, when masks fall, you don't just see others differently, you start to see yourself differently too. You realize how much you tolerated because of the mask. You realize how much you excused because you didn't want to face the reality. You realize how often you silence your own spirit just to keep the peace. And when you see that you can't go back to blindness, once the truth is revealed, you're accountable for what you do with it. It's tempting to wish the mask had stayed on, because when people show you who they really are, it forces a choice. You can't keep treating it like it's still hidden. You either stay connected and compromise your spirit, or you step back and guard your peace. And stepping back is not weakness, it's wisdom. Sometimes God lets the mask fall not so you can fight harder to hold on, but so you can finally have the courage to let go. There's a shift happening in the spirit where the hidden is being revealed all around us. Leaders, friends, institutions, even family. What was covered is now uncovered. And though it feels messy, it's actually mercy, because God will not let his children keep walking in the dark. He'll rip off the disguises. He'll interrupt the performance. He'll show you the truth because your destiny requires clarity. You cannot walk in power while still chained to pretense. And maybe the most challenging part is this. Sometimes you discover that the mask wasn't just on others. It was on you. You wore strength when you were breaking. You wore joy when you were grieving. You wore I'm fine when you were really falling apart. And God says, no more masks, no more pretending, no more covering what needs healing. Because if you keep hiding behind a mask, you'll keep missing the deliverance that comes from being real. There is nothing shameful about your scars. Nothing weak about your tears, nothing unworthy about your truth. Masks are falling everywhere, and yours has to fall too. So don't fear the reveal. Don't resent the moment when someone shows you who they truly are. Don't cling to the illusion when God is showing you reality. Let the masks fall and trust that when they do, you will finally have the vision you need to step into your next season. Because you cannot rise while holding hands with a lie, and you cannot soar while chained to deception. The masks are falling off. Discernment is your greatest defense, and in times like these, it is no longer optional. It is essential. You can no longer afford to lean only on what looks good, what sounds good, or what feels good. Because everything that looks good isn't God. Everything that sounds good isn't truth. And everything that feels good isn't for your future. Discernment is the ability to hear past the noise, to see past the surface, and to sense what your natural eyes and ears can't detect. It is heaven's whisper in the middle of chaos, God's nudge in the middle of confusion, and the Spirit's clarity when everything around you seems convincing, but not consistent with his word. The danger of this season is not always what you can see. It's what you can't. The enemy doesn't show up with horns and a pitchfork. He shows up dressed in opportunity, wrapped in promises, packaged in relationships that look like answers but are actually distractions. That's why discernment is your shield. Discernment tells you when to pause before signing that deal. Discernment tells you to wait before saying yes to that friendship. Discernment tells you to pray before stepping into that room. Without it, you become vulnerable to deception. With it, you become unshakable in truth. And discernment is not suspicion. Suspicion is rooted in fear, but discernment is rooted in wisdom. Suspicion makes you doubt everyone, but discernment equips you to identify what aligns with God's plan and what does not. Suspicion builds walls, but discernment builds clarity. When you're suspicious, you live guarded and closed off, but when you're discerning, you live guided and covered. That difference matters. Because God didn't call you to live paranoid. He called you to live protected. The truth is, discernment often won't make sense to the people around you. You may feel the Spirit telling you to leave a place that everyone else calls safe. You may feel the urge to disconnect from a person that others think is harmless. You may sense something wrong when there's no evidence to prove it yet. And if you're not careful, you'll let other people talk you out of the very warning that was sent to protect you. You can't ignore that still small voice. You can't silence that pull in your spirit just because it doesn't match what everyone else sees. Sometimes God shows you what others can't see, not because you're better, but because you're chosen to move differently. Discernment doesn't just protect you from danger. It positions you for destiny. It teaches you when to wait and when to move, when to fight and when to be still, when to speak and when to stay silent. Without discernment, you'll waste time fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You'll give energy to things that were never assigned to you. You'll chase opportunities that look like doors but are really traps. But with discernment, you'll know where to focus, you'll know when to shift, and you'll know how to protect the oil that's on your life. And here's the beautiful thing, discernment grows with relationship. The closer you walk with God, the sharper your hearing becomes. Just like a child who knows their parent's voice in a crowded room, when you spend time with him, you recognize his tone even in the middle of chaos. You recognize when peace is present. And you recognize when something feels off. You recognize when he's saying, go, go. And you recognize when he's saying, wait. That's why prayer is not just a ritual. It's training for your spirit. Worship is not just a song. It's alignment for your soul. Reading his word is not just a habit. It's equipping your heart with truth so that lies don't stand a chance. We are living in a time when counterfeit is everywhere. Counterfeit love. Counterfeit success, counterfeit wisdom. And the only way to tell the difference between what is real and what is imitation is by discernment. You can't always trust your emotions. You can't always trust appearances. But you can always trust the Spirit to reveal what your eyes cannot. And when you trust that, you stop walking blindly into traps and you start stepping boldly into purpose. So don't dismiss that stirring in your heart. Don't brush off that uneasiness in your spirit. Don't ignore the warning just because everything looks perfect. Discernment is not there to make your life harder. It's there to keep your destiny intact. When you honor it, when you sharpen it, when you rely on it, you'll find yourself walking with a confidence that no deception can touch. Discernment is your greatest defense. Your position matters more than ever because where you choose to stand determines how you will withstand. You can't afford to be casual about your alignment in this season. Every step, every connection, every decision is shaping the trajectory of your future. When the shaking happens, when the masks fall, when exposure reveals what you didn't want to see, the question isn't just what's being uncovered. It's where are you standing when it does? Because position is not just about geography, it's about posture. It's about the posture of your spirit, the stance of your faith, and the ground you refuse to give up even when life tries to push you back. Position is the difference between being a spectator and being a survivor. It's the difference between collapsing under pressure and rising in purpose. You cannot stand anywhere and expect victory. You must stand in the right place, with the right people and under the right covering. That's why the enemy fights so hard to move you out of alignment. He knows if he can get you to shift away from your God-ordained position, he can drain your strength, steal your clarity, and distract you from your calling. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't about what's attacking you, but about where you're standing while it does. You can't fight spiritual battles from a carnal position. You can't withstand storms if your foundation is sand. You can't expect peace if you're standing in places that feed your chaos. Position matters because atmosphere matters. Who you're around, what you're connected to, what you tolerate. All of it impacts the posture of your heart. If your circle is toxic, your position is poisoned. If your environment is draining, your discernment gets clouded. But when you position yourself in God's presence, when you anchor yourself in truth, when you surround yourself with voices that lift instead of tear down, your strength multiplies. There will always be pressure to move, pressure to compromise so you can fit in, pressure to lower your standard so you can be accepted, pressure to shift your stance so you don't offend anyone. But if you change your position every time someone questions you, you'll never know what it means to be planted. The tree that bears fruit isn't the one constantly uprooted and moved. It's the one that stays planted long enough to grow deep roots. And in this season, you must be rooted in prayer, rooted in conviction, rooted in truth. Because when the winds blow, roots hold what branches can't. Position also has everything to do with obedience. Sometimes God tells you to stay in a place that doesn't make sense because he's working something out that you can't see yet. Other times he tells you to move when everyone else is comfortable staying. And it feels lonely because nobody else understands why you had to shift. Obedience is what keeps you in position even when logic tells you to do the opposite. You can't let convenience dictate your position. You can't let comfort dictate your position. You can't even let people dictate your position. When God says move, you move. When he says stand, you stand. When he says let go, you let go. Because your position is connected to his protection. And understand this, your position is not just about you. It's about the people who are connected to you. If you shift out of place, the ones who were supposed to draw strength from your stance are left uncovered. Your children, your friends, your community, there are people tied to your obedience. The ground you choose to stand on doesn't just hold you. It impacts everyone who looks to you as a covering. That's why the enemy wants you wary, distracted, offended. Because if he can pull you out of position, he leaves others vulnerable too. But when you remain steadfast, when you hold your ground, when you declare that no matter the shaking, no matter the storm, no matter the pressure, you will not be moved. You release a power that not only secures your future, but strengthens those connected to you. Position is not weakness. Position is warfare. Every time you refuse to bow, you break chains. Every time you choose to stand, you silence lies. Every time you hold your ground in faith, you tell the enemy, you can touch my circumstances, but you cannot touch my stance. So in this moment, more than ever before, check your position, check your alignment, check your stance. Because in the days ahead, it will not just be what you believe that carries you. It will be where you stand. Your position matters more than ever. God is still in control of the reveal. And that is the anchor we have to hold on to when everything around us feels like it's unraveling. When exposure happens, when masks fall, when the truth finally rises to the surface, it can feel chaotic. It can feel unfair. And it can feel like life is spiraling out of control. But just because it feels that way doesn't mean it is that way. Nothing is revealed without his permission, and nothing comes to light outside of his timing. The same God who orders the sun to rise and the moon to shine is the God who orders the unveiling of truth in your life. It may catch you off guard, but it never catches him. We wrestle with that because we like control. We like to predict outcomes, manage details, and prepare ourselves for every possibility. But God's process doesn't work like that. He doesn't reveal on our schedule. He reveals on his. Sometimes he waits until you're strong enough to handle the truth. Other times he waits until your heart has matured enough to see what you couldn't have seen before. And sometimes he reveals not for your comfort, but for your calling. Because what he uncovers is the very thing that pushes you into your next level. If God is in control of the reveal, then even the painful truths serve a purpose. Even the betrayals you didn't see coming. Even the disappointments that broke your heart, even the realities that shook your confidence, they were not revealed to destroy you, but to direct you. You thought that person was supposed to walk with you forever, but God allowed their true intentions to show because their presence would have sabotaged your future. You thought that opportunity was your breakthrough, but God let it collapse because it wasn't built for where you're going. You thought that habit was harmless, but God uncovered its damage because he loves you too much to let you keep carrying it in silence. Control of the reveal also means timing is intentional. Some truths you wanted to know earlier, but if you had, they would have crushed you. Some truths you begged God to show, but if he had answered when you asked, you would have walked away too soon. God knows the exact moment your heart can bear it, your spirit can process it, and your faith can withstand it. That's why you have to trust his timing even when you don't like his process. Because what feels like delay to you is divine protection for your destiny. And let's be honest, sometimes it frustrates us that God lets things stay hidden for so long. We cry out, Lord, why didn't you show me this sooner? But if he let it stay hidden, it's because there was something you were still supposed to learn in the meantime. The delay wasn't neglect, it was preparation. He was strengthening you, sharpening you, and positioning you so that when the truth finally came, it didn't break you. It built you. What you call wasted time, he calls training ground. What you call unfair, he calls necessary. God being in control of the reveal should bring peace to your spirit, because if he let it be seen, that means he already has a plan for how you'll come out of it. If he uncovered it, he's already written your restoration. If he exposed it, he's already lined up your elevation. Nothing revealed is random. And nothing revealed is wasted. The God who sees the end from the beginning doesn't just let you stumble into exposure. He orchestrates it so that you are always positioned to win. So instead of asking, why now? Start asking, what now? Instead of focusing on the pain of what was uncovered, focus on the purpose it serves in your journey. Instead of mourning the timing, trust the author who holds the clock. Because control has never been in your hands. It has always been in his. The reveal may feel sudden, but it is strategic. It may feel overwhelming, but it is ordered. It may feel painful, but it is purposeful. And when you begin to rest in that truth, you stop panicking about what you didn't see coming, and you start praising the one who saw it all along. God is still in control of the reveal. This is not the time to be silent. When darkness gets bold, when deception gets loud, when truth is being mocked in broad daylight, the worst thing you could do is shrink back and mute your voice. Silence may feel safe, but it is also agreement. Silence may protect your image, but it risks your impact. And if the enemy is no longer hiding, why should you? If lies can parade themselves openly, then truth deserves to stand boldly. If wickedness is unashamed, then righteousness has to be unafraid. For too long, many of us have convinced ourselves that silence is wisdom, that keeping the peace is more important than speaking the truth. But there's a difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. Peacekeeping means you stay quiet to avoid conflict. Peacemaking means you confront the lie so real peace can exist. If you never open your mouth, you're not protecting peace. You're protecting deception. And in this hour, God is raising up voices that will not tremble, voices that will not compromise, voices that will not be silenced by fear of rejection or criticism. The danger of silence is that it creates space for the wrong voices to dominate. When you don't speak, someone else will, and too often it's the voice of deception, confusion, or compromise that fills the silence. That's why your voice matters. Your testimony matters. Your convictions matter. You may think your words are small, but they carry weight when backed by the Spirit of God. One voice can shift a room. One truth can shatter a lie. One declaration can remind someone else that they're not alone in the fight. I know it feels costly to speak. Speaking truth can cost you relationships. It can cost you opportunities. It can cost you comfort. But staying silent costs you even more. It costs you integrity. It costs you clarity. And it costs you the chance to stand where God has called you to stand. If the cross teaches us anything, it's that truth was never meant to be convenient. It was meant to be carried even when it hurts, even when it offends, even when it costs. And let's be clear, speaking up doesn't always mean shouting. It doesn't always mean standing on a stage or posting for the world to see. Sometimes speaking up means looking at your own reflection and finally declaring the truth you've been running from. Sometimes it means having that hard conversation in your family, standing firm in your workplace, or refusing to bow to a culture that wants you to compromise. Speaking up starts with refusing to betray your own spirit. When you align your voice with God's truth, you become a vessel that shifts atmospheres no matter where you are. We live in a time when lies dress themselves in eloquence, when manipulation comes with a smile, when compromise hides under the name of progress. And if there was ever a time for truth to be spoken with conviction, it's now. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to sound perfect. You just need to be willing. Because the same Spirit that gives you discernment will give you the words. The same God who reveals will also equip. He didn't uncover what he uncovered just for you to sit in silence. He revealed it so you could carry light into places where darkness thought it could win. The enemy thrives in silence because silence gives him space. But when you speak, when you open your mouth in truth and in faith, you disrupt his plans. You remind him that the authority in your voice doesn't come from you. It comes from the one who sent you. You remind him that even if the world grows darker, the light in you cannot be muted. And that's why he wants you quiet, because he knows the moment you open your mouth, chains start to break. So no, this is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to hide your light. This is not the time to let fear muzzle your voice. This is the time to declare, the time to stand, the time to be bold in faith and firm in truth. If the enemy is no longer hiding, neither should you. This is not the time to be silent.